All right, Algebra 2. Today we are doing inverse functions. There's a bunch of notes on here for you to read, obviously. But here is essentially the deal with inverses. I'm going to go ahead and show you a quick version of what they are. I'm going to take you to Desmos. Hold up. All right. So this is essentially what we're dealing with. Let's say I had this parent function y equals x squared. Inverses, what inverses are is you basically switch the x and y. That's what the inverse means. You switch the x and y. So what does that look like? Well, check out this next equation down here. I'm going to highlight it. I switch the x and y literally. And notice what you see right here. There's a special thing called y equals x. It's a line. I'm going to graph that as well too. Here it comes up. Boom. That y equals x is the line of symmetry for inverse relationships. So can you see how if you took this red and you kind of flipped it over this green, you can kind of see how it matches. Like if you were to fold it in half exactly along the green, you can see where the blue and the red will match up with each other. So that is the inverse axis of symmetry, essentially. It's the one that divides it in half and shows you where it folds along. So I wanted to show you that for the basics of this. And then I'm going to go ahead and take you to the notes. The line of reflection is y equals x. That's what I showed you already. That was this line, this y equals x. It shows you where it's reflecting over, and that's super important to know just because. So I'm going to go ahead and get into this real quick. There's multiple ways to express the inverse, but as long as you realize what the deal is, you're switching the x and y's. So check out right here. This is weird. They've given you a function. It's basically just a set of points. So can you go ahead and basically make the x, y of this? So I'm going to count how many points there are. 1, 2, 3, 4 points. So I'm going to go ahead and get my skeleton set up. There's 4 points in here. So I'm going to have my 4 points set up like this. And y'all know my crappy little handwriting. That's my little, that thing is my attempt right there, whatever. What you do, you switch it. -3, -4. 1, -2. Look what I'm switching. 5, 0, and then 9, 2. And that's essentially that. That's really not that bad. So for B, I'm going to go ahead and do the inverse of this one as well too. So I'm going to draw that terrible sign. How many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points this time. So I'll get 5 on this line. That's 2, 3, 4, and 5. So switched around. This is 5, -1. Notice here, when you switch this, it ends up being the same thing. 0, 0. -3, 1. 0, 4. And then 5, 5. And that's perfectly fine. That will happen sometimes. So that's essentially it. That's like the basics of what an inverse looks like. Remember, the inverse on the graph looks like this. Essentially, that green line is the line of reflection. And that's the first main lecture of this.